Good evening, everybody. I am so excited to invite you all to this webinar, and it's a real privilege to ask George Pransky to come and speak with us. Sharon, if you could switch your camera off just for the beginning, and then we're going to have everybody switch them back on for that. Thank you so much. So I just want to introduce George, first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with him. So Dr. George Pransky is one of two professional founders of the understanding of the three principles of mind, thought, and consciousness. He has taught the principles for over 30 years to individuals, couples, businesses, and colleagues. Dr. Pransky is the author of the Relationship Handbook and over 50 audio recordings. During his career, he has served on the faculty of 3 graduate universities and continues to pioneer this understanding in new industries. Currently, he is partner at Pransky & Associates and on the executive committee of the Three Principles Global Community. So it's, like I said, it's a real honor and privilege to have you here, George. And I wanted to start by just saying how this webinar came about, because George and I have a mutual client, and who may or may not be on the call somewhere. And this mutual client of ours had terrible shoulder pain. And he was also being mentored by George. And I can't remember how he came to be talking to me. But I can remember him sitting on my sofa here, and we were talking, having a coaching session, talking about pain. And all of a sudden, his pain started to go away, like right in front of me. It was amazing. It was like, it doesn't always happen that way. I wish it did. Right? Sometimes I can talk to people for hours, days, months, and nothing shifts. But something shifted, and it was so exciting for both of us and everyone to watch. And I asked him if he would ask George if he would come and do a webinar with us, and so and that's how it happened. So I feel really excited. So one of the reasons I was so excited to speak to you is because you've been dealing with a lot of health issues in the last few years, major ones, and to see you recover, it is absolutely incredible. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that, about your journey recovering from surgery and then from the stroke. Over to you.
Well, his thing is that the stroke, the surgery was predictable. That I was scheduled for surgery, and I took the time off. But the stroke was out of the blue, and it really affected, how to say it. I lost my, the thing I was concerned is, and I didn't know the extent to which I would recover, because I didn't know whether I would recover maybe 20% or more. And I make my living doing seminars. So and clients. So it was a real disappointment for me to have that stroke. And for a period of time, I was really bummed out about it. In other words, I just felt like my professional life is over. Mm. That's it. And I was thinking, what else could I do in my life? And so I got pretty dark. And then I realized that I could do something. I could have some job and I could contribute to life some way. I didn't have to do it by uh, being a public speaker and well, the hope of that gave me a new lease on life. Even though I wasn't crazy with the options I was left with, I really felt like it actually had some options. I didn't even know what they were, but I thought, as long as I'm alive, I'm going to have to spend my time doing something, and the something that I'm spending my time doing, that would be called my career. I could call that my career. Well, this is what I did next. And that was a huge sigh. I breathed a huge sigh of relief because I was under the false impression that my life was over as long as as long as I couldn't be a public speaker, that my life was over, and I just had to resign myself to to uh, a life that that was second rate. So I kind of have a period of time where I felt like I can't deal with this. Well, at some point, I had the realization that I could, I could do anything that I was called to do. I didn't have to fit in some way. I could I realized there was life after a stroke. Let me see how to say it. It gave me the feeling that I didn't know what the future held for me, but I would find out. So I was very open-minded, and I was realizing that there was life after a stroke. And I can't tell you how much that did for me because I went through this emotional turmoil. And then I realized that was for naught, because I still had my capabilities and still could contribute to life, and no one could take that away from me. And yes, my contribution might be smaller than I would have. As long as I did something, I felt like that's all I had to concern myself with. So that's my story. And since that day, I've gone through I've gone through several operations, and it seems like I've been in the hospital more than in and out of the hospital.
George, I think you're saying something really important, because a lot of the people I talk to who are in a lot of pain, like, first of all, you said how it felt very dark and depressing. I think a lot of people, when they come across the principles, they'll think like, yeah, but I'm never going to have a bad day ever again if I understand, how the mind works. And then when we get stuck, in bed or restricted, our lives get restricted by pain, it's very easy to get depressed and to see our worlds getting very small and focusing on those thoughts. So it's really inspiring to hear you talk about moving through that and coming out the other side and having hope, and seeing that your perspective of it changing. And all that took was, some fresh new thinking.
Well, what I realized, Hannah, is I think the most important thing to understand, if you're if you want to have an understanding of life, the most important understanding you can have for life is to understand the fact of moods. And I'm going to talk about that, and dig deep in that direction, because I think it's the key for a person like yourself. If you can understand the nature of moods, they simply won't have as much voice in their life as they would have otherwise had. So I'd like to go back and tell you a story, if I could, about this story is about my mother, because my brother called me and said, "Gee, George, you gotta help my mom. She's on the East Coast, and she's in a terrible place psychologically. She's just really suffering." Now I knew that her husband died, and I knew that was going to affect her, but I didn't know how much it was going to affect her. And that's where I started to see how moods is what can take a person out of their despair and change the feeling that they're living in. So I wanted to talk to you about that. I was going to use my mother as an example. Is that okay to? So I was going to use my mother as an example.
Sure.
So I hadn't seen her. My dad passed away, and I was on the West Coast, and so I spent a little time with her, and then I didn't see her much for a while, and then I had that conversation that I just related, that where my brother needed my help. He didn't know what to do with my mom because she wasn't responding to anything. Well, I I went to Boston, and to tell you the truth, I was shocked at how old she'd gotten in a very short time. Her face was all wrinkled. It was, I hardly recognized her. And it just was shocking to see how much the her, I'm going to say, her mood affected her. I just didn't realize that if she got really down in the dumps, it was going to have a big effect on her. And and the thing is, she normally she was a mentally healthy person. So I could see that was very shocking to her all of a sudden to be as troubled. So I when I work with her, I said to her, "Well, Mom, do you understand that the only issue you have is your mood? If your mood changed all of a sudden and your spirits went up, that would be all that you needed." And she said, as you would imagine, what are you talking about, George? You're saying that my whole problem is that my spirits went down? Is that what you're saying? And the things aren't the way they appear? Is that what you're saying, George? You could say, I lost my husband. I lost, the most important person in my life. And you're talking as if it's no big deal. I said, well, do you understand, Mom, that if you get down in the dumps, and everybody's like this, it's not just you, everybody's there. If you get in the dumps, down in the dumps, it's going to look like your reality suddenly changed. It's going to look like there's less hope in the world, and you're going to notice people who are enjoying themselves and say, why can't I be like them? And you're going to be jealous of people, and your entire reality changes. When your mood changes, your entire reality changes. And it's not just you, everybody's like that. That's a big secret that people don't understand. People don't understand that when you go to a level of lower level of consciousness, your entire reality changes accordingly. So she said to me, well, so what are you saying, George? Are you saying that it's are you saying that I didn't lose my husband? I said, well, I'm saying that you're that you've lost your emotional bearings. That's another way to say it. You've temporarily lost your emotional bearings. And from where you are, there's a lot of pain and suffering. It's going to be a lot of pain and suffering in your life from where you are. And I can see it in you, Mom, that it's really put you through the ringer. And she said, what it would be like? She said, I still don't understand. What would my life be? What are you suggesting that my life would be? She said, don't you think that that's real? That I'm dealing with reality here? And I said, well, the problem is, Mom, that people's levels of well-being, people's moods go up and down. So it will appear that your reality is very, it'll appear that you're well, see, I'm not saying it right, Hannah. So you got to be patient with me. Let me see. Now, see, as we're speaking right now, your mood is going up and going down as we speak. So at one point, you feel high spirited and feel like all is good with the world. And then at another point, you're going to feel like you might feel troubled. So people have to see that they go in and out of all these levels of all these mood levels and these levels of well-being changes. And that's all they have to be understand is that. That's all they have to understand, because you can't, you can't outrun moods. You know, people get, but you can get over moods. And when you get over a mood, it will look like your reality's changed. Now, my mother, all of a sudden, she perked up. And you could see that she'd heard something from the conversation. And she said, well, George, you sound like things are, it's all a matter of appearances. People are one day this way on one day, and then the day later they're somewhere else. She said, I don't understand what you're saying about moods. Are you saying that moods is what's happening in people's lives? I said, yeah, I am saying that. I'm saying that people don't understand that they have moods, and they don't see the implications of that. So they take their whatever feelings they have now seriously. And that's what you've done, Mom. You've taken your feelings and your depression really seriously. And she said, well, she says, George, I'm 80 years old. All right. That time she was 80 years old. She said, are you saying that I don't understand life? I said, well, you don't understand moods. I can tell you that right now. You get fooled by moods. Now, the thing is, Mom, you're a very high-spirited person. That's what I admire about you. You're a very high-spirited person. So it's not like you to be down in the dumps like you are, or like you have been. So she said, well, this is a whole new new way you're talking, George. I see what you're saying, but I didn't understand the implications of it. I didn't understand that when people are in a low mood, it really looks to them that their mood's low. So they would say that's the only problem is right now I'm not seeing things, Rob, because my mood's low. So they would say that's the only problem I have, and they would be right in that. But for that, their spirits would be different.
George, you're reminding me of I think you have a podcast called Doing Down Well.
Yes.
Right. And I remember one when someone first suggested that I listen to that podcast, it blew my mind that you can do down well, right?
Yes.
Because if I was down, like that mood that you're talking about, it was the end of the world, you know. And
Absolutely.
I list all my problems, looking at the pain, the discomfort, the hopelessness. Like you're saying, you get stuck in that mood. But when you talked about how you could do down well, it just blew my mind. What a concept. I've never heard of such a thing before.
Well, that's the thing I learned from Sydney Banks.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that it wasn't realistic for someone to avoid the moods. That wasn't realistic. So people are going to have moods, but I didn't realize that there's such a thing as doing down well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very realistic as a person could, if they understood moods, they could do down well. And their moods wouldn't affect them so much.
Right.
Now, I think the world needs to hear this, because I think people take their experience, whatever it is, as a given, and it's hard for them to understand that they're going to, that they have to get over themselves. They have to do down well, and they have to get over their experiences.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of people who are in pain, it can seem so hopeless. So it's really great to hear you talk about how that my reality doesn't have to be what I think it is, right? And it can shift and change, and to know that moods are going to change, they're going to pass on. Like every bad mood I've ever had has passed.
Yes.
It always passes, and it's so good to be reminded of that, because I think a lot of the people listening who are dealing with pain, we're often guided to analyze our thinking, look for those repressed emotions, to look to the past for the answers. And what you're pointing to is like I loved how you said, like, not to take it all so seriously. When I stopped taking it all so seriously, the mood was so much, like, it passed so much easier, so much quicker.
Yes. Yeah, and the other thing about it, Hannah, is that you're going to have a learning curve about this. So you should feel like you're learning something about the nature of our psychological lives. So you'll get on a learning curve, and that learning curve will take you wherever you want to go. See, like, how I said, that I was really bummed out in my life, and I felt like my life was over when I was going through those that despondency. And then I suddenly had, I suddenly felt better, and I didn't understand why I suddenly felt better, but I was able to ride that feeling to a higher place, and that pulled me out of the funk I was in. So I saw possibilities that were right there, and I didn't notice them.
So, George, would you be okay if I'm going to ask some people if they have some questions? So.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
I love that when people questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if anybody who's listening, if you want to, you can switch your camera on. You can unmute yourself and come and ask George some questions. Let's see what we've got. Let's see. Tom has his hand up. Where's Tom?
Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi there. Hi,
Hey, Tom.
Hey, George. I just have a brief question for you. First of all, I love this and really see it a lot. I'm just kind of curious in this whole understanding, is there a relation between mood and thought? Because we talk about thought a lot in the principles, and now we're talking about mood. What is the relation between the two, if there is one?
Well, it's a good question. It's a really good question. I mean, your thoughts determine your mood. So when you are in the dumps, we'll say, then you're going to have thoughts that are in the dumps.
Mm-hmm.
And then if your mood goes up, your thoughts go up. You become more high-spirited. And then all of a sudden your mood goes down, and you say, what happened here? A minute ago I was doing great. Now what's going on? Well, if you look at a young kids, they are absolutely expert at that. They go up and down all over the place, and they don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
Is to go all over the place and not take it seriously. If you can do that, you're going to have a wonderful life.
Yeah. I had an experience this past weekend for the first time in a couple of years. I was really caught in something for a weekend, and I realized I was caught in it, and I was remembering it was thought, but it didn't seem to do any good. But then there was something in me that said not to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful. So I definitely hear what you're saying.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
If you can understand that the only mistake you can make is to take your thoughts too serious as a human being. Now, if you asked me, well, how likely is it that a human being is going to tuck their thoughts too seriously, I'd say, oh, it's highly likely. All right. But then again, they don't understand how the mind works. They don't understand the nature of our psychological lives. They don't understand that. So of course they would be hard pressed to stay out of their devices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, George. My mood is sky high right now.
That's good. That's good.
So, George, I can't see you right now, so I'm guessing you're still there. I see a picture of a rocking chair. So Patty has her hand up. Patty, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Thank you. Hi, George.
How you doing?
How are you? I love your floor. Your floor is beautiful wood. Beautiful. So George, it sounds like your mother was open to the connection and kind of astonished that, wow, if my mood changed, I would see things differently. You know, it really sounds like she opened up to that and heard that from you. What I wanted to know is, how could her mood change, though? Even though if she knew that if her mood changed, reality would look different. I mean, can one really get over a mood? I mean, wouldn't it have to wait for her grief to pass? Or, I mean, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I know what you're asking. See, I was absolutely shocked that my mother didn't even know that she had moods.
Mm.
I was shocked. To tell the truth, I was disbelieving her. And I said to her, Mom, don't you understand that things appear different because of your mood? That your mood will affect how you see life. And she said to me, I never made that connection, George.
Right.
And I said, well, so you're 80 years old and you never knew about moods? She says, apparently that's the case. Now, all you have to do is understand that things look different from when you're down in the dumps, we'll say. All you have to do is say, I know that things are going to look different to me because I'm down the dumps right now, and that will affect how I see life. So all you have to do is cop to it, is acknowledge that, and you're off and running. As far as I know.
But how did her mood change? How do you change? I mean, she had that beautiful realization, and was that enough to cause a mood change? You know what I'm saying?
Well, so let me see how to say it, because what I'm saying isn't enough, according to what you're saying. Well, look, everybody's mood is changing all the time.
Right, but hers didn't seem to change. Right? That's why your brother was worried.
Well, yeah, Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, hers didn't change because she was, I don't know, depressed.
Right.
But as soon as she understood that she was, the only issue is that her spirits were low, she was down in the mouth, she could change. I don't know how to say it better.
That's okay. Sounds like you gave her hope for a future that could be different than the one she was having. And, you know, and her well-being came back to her. Did her mood change, by the way?
Oh, she looked like a completely different person when we had our talk.
Wow.
Honestly, she looked so haggard and worn out. And then she changed.
Wow.
She became a very high-spirited person. And that's not because of my doing.
Right.
That's the way she was by her nature. She was just a really high-spirited person. And and that just and the other thing is I did a seminar for my mother and my father. There was like 270 people in the room, and I was so excited because I was going to do a seminar for my mother and my father. Well, they didn't hear anything, and they didn't understand what I was trying to say. So they were saying, "Well, George, I know you're trying to say something, but what is it that you're trying to say?" I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to answer. So that was before I talked to my mother about moods. But she didn't hear anything either. My father both didn't. They liked presentation, and they thought I was a really nice person, and they thought I was very warming and engaging, but they didn't see it from what I was telling them.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, George. Yeah. Great to see you.
Well, it's nice to be here with you folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. I see Kajal. Am I saying your name right? You have your hand up.
Yes. Thank you, Hannah, for this opportunity. It's really kind of you. And thank you, George. It's lovely to hear you. I was referring to a line in Hannah's book where she says, "There's no such thing as the subconscious." Right. There are so many people who, with a lot of pain, and they believe that their repressed emotions and subconscious emotions are the cause of their chronic pain. And right. When I read this in Hannah's book, "There's no such thing as a subconscious," that was really a big game changer for me. And I'd love to hear, George, more about that, please.
Well, I think Hannah's brilliant when she said that. I think that's right. If you think that like the subconscious is kind of in the field of psychology is like the boogeyman. Everybody's afraid of the boogeyman. And the boogeyman doesn't really exist. The only thing that exists is what is in your thoughts. That's the only thing that exists. So if you live in the feeling of your thoughts, so that's what you would call your personal reality. Now, I personally think that that the world is that believes in the subconscious, and I think that's a distraction to human beings. I don't think it's going to stand out under scrutiny. Now, if you said to me, well, George, are there things that you think are true that turn out not to be true? I'd say absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely true. But it's not like there's a boogeyman and this boogeyman's going to get you.
Thank you, George. So would you then say that there are thoughts that we are unaware of?
Yeah,
some that we are aware of and some that we are not aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, there's thoughts that I'm aware of. Like, here's an example. I think that I'm rushed. I'm going, it's like I'm double parked. So at the times when I feel rushed, I make sense of the fact that I'm feeling rushed, and I understand why I'm feeling rushed. But then I look at my wife, Linda, and I can see that she doesn't feel rushed, period. That helps me, because how come she doesn't feel rushed and I feel rushed? So that wakes me up to a possibility. And that possibility takes me to a higher ground. So anytime I feel rushed, I can roll my eyes at myself. And it's easy for me not to take it seriously, because I think I'm nutty at those times. And it's good to if I don't have to take myself seriously. I don't know if this is all making sense to you. I'm hoping it is. So that would make my day. If you said, "Oh yeah, George, this all makes sense to me." But
it's very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you, George.
Oh, good.
So, George, I think we've got time for one more. I see Andrew has his hand. Andrew, did you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, John, I think I've got to be honourable, and Wendy had her hand up before me. So please do.
Well, I can accommodate the two of you.
Okay.
So I'll ask Wendy for her question first, and then I'll ask you what your question is.
Wonderful.
Very kind, thank you.
Wendy, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. That was very kind of you. And mostly, George, I really wanted to just, my heart lit up and I felt the world of possibility open in your opening words when you shared the fact that you have a vision of your career as a man who speaks, and that is the genesis of your career. And then you woke to the new possibility. that whatever you're doing with your day now, that's your career.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to tell you the lift in my spirit and the that it just, that puts the wheels on the bus of the three principles for me. That puts the wheels on the bus. Just that not that I feel like I've kind of been happy to be aware of the three principles for a few years now, but that just really was a wonderful example of the resiliency of humanity, the fresh possibilities that can rise to the top, and getting us kind of unstuck. A friend of mine is undergoing chronic pain from long haul COVID. And just yesterday she said, wait a minute, maybe I don't need to chase these symptoms and keep going to my doctor all the time. Maybe these symptoms are just my body working through the illness. And as I have a fever or as I have a bad day, with the nausea, maybe that's just things just working themselves through and recalibrating. And she had much more peace in the last few days when she realized that. So that sort of ability that we all have to kind of have something new and fresh come from our current day. So I just want to thank you, and I will cede the floor to my friend Andrew. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you something. It does something for me that you shared what you just shared. That helped me. The spirit helped me.
Yeah. Thanks,
Wendy.
Yeah. So, Andrew, over to you.
Thanks very much, George and Chana. So really, I want to just quickly get your views on the getting out of bed the wrong side syndrome. So I'll go to bed in a great mood, and then I wake up in the morning and something doesn't feel right. So what's sort of happening there, and then how do I throw those sort of thoughts away and dust myself down and move on? I think I've been hearing what you're saying.
Well, I'm one of those people who is pretty much in a really good mood all the time. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Did you guys make me serious? No,
funny.
Listen.
Guy.
Life is a full contact sport. So every human being, when you live life, you're living a full contact sport. So everybody is like you. They have their downs and like me, their ups and downs. Like right now, I've got this bad eye. Right now, I have a big infection in my eye. Okay, now it's an annoyance to me. But then again, it's not like I've got some other more serious injury. But as long as I don't concern myself with it, the thought of it goes away.
Yeah. So maybe I'm concerning myself that today's not going to be as good as the day before. Yeah. Because maybe I'm looking to what's ahead in the day and thinking, actually, that's not going to meet my expectations of the day before. And then I feel, it's not going to be a good day.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what you should understand. Because life is a full contact sport, and let me say it. Let me say it right. If you're not on your ass today, then you will be in your ass someday. That's why it's a full-time sport, because everybody's on their ass sometimes, you know? And it's not for you to determine when that sometimes is. And I know me, I have a vague recollection of when I was, the last time I wasn't on my ass. And a vague remembrance is good enough. It's even a vague remembrance is good enough.
Thank you, George.
Well, we've come to the end of our webinar, and I've got such a big smile on my face. George, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure listening to you, and you're such an inspiration for how you've, come through some really tough physical stuff, and you're so inspiring of how you've handled this, and to see that innate resilience just shining through, and just can hear it in your wisdom and the words that you've shared with us. So on behalf of everybody, I really want to thank you for your time and sharing your stories and your experience with us. So I'm sure everybody really, really appreciates that. So
well, I love the reception. I really like how seriously all of you have taken what I've tried to say. So I really like it.
George, you knocked it out of the park, man.
Yay!
Well, that's good news.
You've made my day. So
Yeah.
So I think on behalf of everybody, I think we just want to wish you, a return to full health and all the best. And, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for your time and for sharing this with us tonight. So I wish you the best, all the best for your recovery and with your eye. And thank you for being here.
Say hi to Linda. Say hi to Linda.
Yes, say hi to Linda.
Oh.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Hannah.
George. Thank you, Hannah. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.